What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here for the Sunday Weekly Sports Card Market Update, Shipshawana edition. I am recording this a little earlier than I typically do, so if something crazy happens on Saturday afternoon, it will not be included in this video as I am recording this in the morning or late morning, early afternoon. As soon as I finish recording this, I'm grabbing some lunch and hitting the road to Shipshawana, Indiana. As you are watching this, I am walking around the Shipshawana card show on Sunday. If you're in the area, still time to make it out. I'll be curious to see attendance at this show. It's actually part of the reason why I'm going is just to try to get a vibe with it being a holiday weekend. And as we've talked about, summer months and stuff, people busier, less time on the weekends. It'll be interesting to see what the flow is like at that show, as it is a bigger regional show for this area. My local show, Tozie's on 34th. I was there this morning. Was busy, started slow, got a little bit busier, but not as busy as I've seen it in the past. I could tell right when I pulled in at about 20 after 9, the parking lot was a little later than normal. I'm not surprised by that. Once again, holiday weekend, a lot of the regular dealers weren't there, partially because I think one, holiday, and two, some of them might be heading out to Shipshawana and didn't want to do card shows 2 days in a row on a holiday. Don't know that for sure, but there was a little bit of a different dealer mix there today. So we'll be interested to kind of see how that plays out. I'll do a follow-up video on that, maybe for Monday or Tuesday. Might not be a video tomorrow. I don't know. It depends what time I get back from Indiana. Might just relax tomorrow night and then record on Monday for Tuesday. So if you don't see something on Monday, that is why. Off the top, before I forget, I am throwing up the first fantasy football league. Best ball league, $10, Underdog. The link will be in the description down below. I will try to remember to pin it to a comment, but I might forget since I will be on the road and I can't post a pinned comment until after the video is live. But there will be a link to sign up directly to the league. And there will also be a promo code if you are a new Underdog user and depositing. Best ball league, you draft, you don't have to set a lineup. Very easy, very convenient. I will probably do multiple of these. I just wanted to fire the first one up. I started one. You could see here, I just did a $5 one. This one will be a $10 one, 10-team league. They're fun to do. They're great mock drafting experience because you get a better feel for how a draft's actually going to play out because people are playing for money. But Underdog, very great platform. I've worked with them for the last, year or so, and I've used them for, since the platform has been around, really. I love best ball leagues. They're some of my favorite things to do. And it'll be a slow draft. So once the draft starts, you have 8 hours to make a pick, or it gives you a little bit more time overnight. So the drafts take like a week or so to run. They're a good time. It's fun tracking all the drafts and doing the slow drafts and stuff. So I wanted to throw that in off the top before I forget. So like I said, worst case scenario, the link and the promo code will be in the description of the video. So just click on the video description and you'll find it in there. Let's get into the news bits. The biggest thing of the week was obviously the PWCC acquisition. We have talked about that a bunch. I did see that PWCC tweeted out, because I had gotten a lot of messages about this over the last couple weeks, that shipping times from PWCC were really taking a long time, like upwards of 2 weeks or longer. And they tweeted something out that since the acquisition now, their goal is to get everything back to under 5 days or better. So it seems like we're beginning to see some immediate changes. I have a feeling it'll be a while before we see significant changes. It does feel like it'll be kind of status quo with them for a hot minute, and then eventually they will get integrated into the Fanatics mothership. I would assume they're going to get rebranded. All this yellow and black will go away and probably get replaced with red and blue, and it'll be Fanatics Marketplace or something like that. But it'll be interesting to see what they do and if things kind of pick back up again. As more and more has kind of come out since then, we are beginning to see the depths of the loan program and kind of the fall of the high-end market. I think a lot of it ties back to that overinflation from the loan program from PWCC. I mean, there was a lot of things going on, but this definitely didn't help because, one, it's putting the cards back on the market faster because people were needing to sell them off, or PWCC was needing to sell them off to cover the loans. And we're seeing the same thing now with Collectible. The Collectible app is basically dying. They're selling off a bunch of their assets as well. So a lot of that stuff continues to hit the market. So I feel like the high end is still rough waters. The lower end, sub $500 seems a little bit more stable. We're still seeing some price swings, obviously, because that's just the ultra modern game as news happens and things happen and people show up with 9mm on Instagram happen. You're going to see wild price swings, playoff runs, playoff losses. You're still going to see that. But generally speaking, the sub $500 stuff does seem to be leveling out a little bit, just the normal ebbs and flows to expect in the normal day-to-day of the ultra modern world. The high end, I think, is still going to be a little messy for a little while. I think once we kind of flush this stuff out of the system, maybe then things can begin to stabilize as these cards. Part of the problem is these high-end rare cards, what kind of helps maintain the value is that they don't come for sale very often. So when they do, there's like a demand for them because everyone's like, oh, that card never comes up. I need to get it. But when the same card's coming up month after month or every couple months or whatever it is, that kind of waters it down a little bit and takes some of that edge off. So I think overall this PWCC acquisition by Fanatics will be good for the long term of things. Now, I got some interesting comments on the grading video. A lot of people definitely don't want to see them entering the grading space. A lot of people in that video were saying, oh, no, they'll just partner with someone. They won't buy someone. If you truly believe that, I think you just don't understand the way that Fanatics works, in my opinion. I think if they're going to do something, they will 100% acquire someone without a doubt. I just think that's the way that it is. Nothing in Fanatics' past says partnership. It says, I will own you, is essentially how this typically goes. If it ever happens, maybe they decide not to. I doubt it. Once it happens, we'll get into a deeper dive on the separation of church and state, for lack of a better term, on that one. I do agree. I listened to the Jeff Wilson show and Cards on the Table this past week. Thanks for the shout out, Jeff. That ideally, they should probably just chill for a little bit and sort this stuff out, try to get the licenses from Panini, and then kind of reset everything and then go after grading versus chasing a grading company now and tossing that into the mix. I think that's what I would like to see. Now, if a distressed asset comes up, Beckett, and they could get it for a cheap price, we have seen they will not hesitate to pull the trigger on that. I laid out in that video last week that, to me, I think SGC makes the most sense, and I think Beckett is a close second. The reason why I put SGC in front of Beckett is because they are a standalone company and not part of a megacorp, whereas Beckett is part of a megacorp and has a lot of extra stuff attached to it. So even though Beckett may be a distressed asset, you might be able to get SGC for cheaper. I don't know. I have no idea even how to begin to fathom what the cost of a grading company would go for, but that's just kind of where my headspace is at. I don't think that would hold them up from buying Beckett. It just depends on how much of a distressed asset that they are, and they would get the Beckett name out of that. I was talking to someone at my local card show today, and they're like, maybe they should just buy them both. And I'm like, that's not the worst idea if you really wanted to triple down, because it would consolidate the space if they got Beckett and SGC, combine them together. You would get Beckett's name and history and respect with SGC's management and vintage knowledge, and kind of mesh those two things together would be kind of an interesting, what does that look like on the back end with an SGC Beckett Wombo combo purchasing would be intriguing. But like I said, personally, I put SGC slightly above Beckett, but Beckett makes a ton of sense. Beckett fits their mold for what they do. Buying a distressed asset on the cheap, swinging in, picking up the scraps. Some interesting conversations to be had if they do enter the grading space. We will see what happens with that. Let's move into some current events on the more charts and graphs side of things. Not a full charts and graphs dive yet, but let's talk Bowman Sapphire. The much ballyhooed, much talked about. I got my 3 boxes in. If you watched yesterday's video, I ripped one. I won't spoil it. If you haven't watched it yet, you should. I did very, very well on that box. I hit a really nice first prospect auto that would probably sell for around, $1,000 to $1,200 raw would be my guess. My dilemma with that card now is, and I may have already made a decision on this, I'm debating whether or not just to sell it raw or to grade it. I think it has a decent shot at a PSA 10. It looks clean. I got to look it over again, but it does look pretty good. So I need to figure out what I want to do with that bad boy. Box prices. Everyone complained about the way that they sold it. A lot of people said, I'm not buying it. They basically sold out at $375. I don't know a single person that bought at the floor at $350. The limited print run of this product is doing wonders for secondary market sales. That and a lot of box openings look pretty good. When you tighten up the checklist like that, especially the auto checklist, and you're getting 3 parallels per box, it makes it a much more enjoyable rip. Not saying that you're going to make your money back out of it guaranteed. Obviously, I did quite well. That's extremely lucky. That is not the norm for most wax openings. But box prices currently sit, the cheapest available on eBay is $625 plus $10 shipping plus sales tax, depending on where you're buying from. So you're looking at a decent chunk of change for this stuff. You're probably pushing, I don't know, what would that be? Almost $670, $650, depending on where you live and if you're paying sales tax or not, to get one of these bad boys. But that is the cheapest available right now. The other crazy thing, and this just could be the weirdness of eBay, but here's my eBay search. Parentheses 2023 Bowman Sapphire box, and then subtract break to get break out of there. Under these search results, which to me is a pretty standard way to search for this, if you take the parentheses off, you get a bunch of 2022 stuff. There's only 19 listings for boxes. That seems a little crazy. There's only a couple listed on Buy Slabs as well. I looked over there. Selling prices, they have blown through $600 a box. This was yesterday's prices. One sold for $650, $615, $590, $655, $525, $629, $615, $600, $610. This is all yesterday. $625, $615, and then a $675 the day before, and another $630. So these things are well north of $600 and slowly creeping up. I don't know where they're ceiling out at. I feel like they will level off at some point in time. But the twist here is what we have been talking about with this is the limited print run of it. Basically, the math says that there's 10,000 boxes of these things. In the grand scheme of things, 10,000 boxes isn't really a lot. I think the rumor is that there's only 2,000 base cards per player based off the print runs. I saw that number floating around, but I cannot confirm that. Base of the good guys, Spencer Jones, Drew Jones, Cam Collier, those guys look like they're going for about $40 to $60, depending on the player. I think that will come down, obviously, as things kind of settle in its release weekend. So still a little wild and crazy on that stuff. But seems like a pretty strong product out of the gate. Once again, I think that limited print run is really going to do wonders for this. And I'll just be honest, there's probably a lot of people kicking themselves that didn't buy it at $375, which basically turned into $400 with tax. My total order was just over like $1,201 or something for 3 boxes. In the back of my mind, I'm already kicking myself, wishing I bought more. I am so tempted to rip these other 2 after pulling the big auto yesterday. I don't know if I'm going to take them with me to ships. I should make up my mind on that. Obviously, they could be there and sold already by the time you're hearing this. I'm kind of just working through this real time. I'm almost debating just holding the boxes for a little bit longer and see if the prices really flare up with the limited print run. So I'm not 100% sure what I want to do with that quite yet. I guess I could take one with me and cash out and hold one as well. I don't know. I need to think about that. I got about 2 hours before I get on the road. So that's Bowman Sapphire where it currently sits. I'll get into singles pricing in about a week. There just wasn't enough sales data yet to really do it. There's only been a couple transactions, even though most people are still have their boxes on the way or they just got them. So there's just not a lot of singles hitting yet, but we'll do a deep dive on maybe like raw autos or something of the base sapphires or the raw singles of the base cards maybe next week once we get a little bit more sales data and kind of see how things are filtering out. In other sealed wax news, and I did not pull anything up on this, but Series 2 launched for the pre-orders this past week, jumbos and hobby boxes. Seems like a decent enough checklist. I don't know that I'm going to chase any of it. I didn't pre-order any of it. And you have Volpe, Walker, and there's a few other guys in there. I think those are the headliners. Someone in the comments can correct me down below. And then during the live stream, I was chatting. I haven't seen, which version seems to be the loaded version of that product. But I saw some people floating around that seemed like hobby boxes, just straight hobby boxes were going to be the ones that you wanted there versus the jumbos. But I haven't seen any math on that myself. I'll wait for Striker or Scotty B or someone to do a breakdown on it and take a peek at it. I don't know that I'll rip any hobby boxes of that. Maybe I'll grab a couple hangers when they pop up at a local show or something on the cheap, just to rip for some content and have a little bit of fun with it. I ripped some Series 1. But I'm not planning to do anything with hobby boxes on those at the moment. We'll see what those come out like and see where things kind of settle in. So let's move into some market movers, some charts and graphs. If you want to check it out yourself, link in the description down below. 14-day free trial and 20% off for life of the subscription that you sign up with. So that does include annual purchases if you so choose, or you get 20% off a month going forward. Once again, this is by far the best promotion that Market Movers has ran in the 3 years or so that I have been using it. First up, baseball. Elly De La Cruz is sweeping the nation. Reds prospect is absolutely raking this month. I mean, it feels like every night of the week he's hitting 2 home runs. He has like 10 home runs on the season, like 30 RBIs, OPS over 1,000. He's absolutely crushing the ball, and his card prices are reflecting it. I pulled up his PSA 10 Sapphire base, his base Chrome Prospect Auto, PSA 9, PSA 10. Now a 10 has not sold in a couple of weeks. A 9, it's been almost a full week since one sold, and you already see what the price increases look like. The base Sapphire is up 40%. The PSA 9 is up 33%. A little bit more recent sales than the PSA 10. The PSA 10 is up 20%. I have a feeling if a PSA 10 sold right now, it would be much, much higher than this $740 number. I will tell you right now, because I'm walking around the show as you are all listening to this, Elly is on my list of things that I am looking for. If I could find something priced at one of these older comps that have not quite adjusted yet, I might pick one up. I normally don't play in the prospect game. I'm getting a little caught up in the hype. I'm not going to lie. But I do think there might be a little bit of an area of opportunity here. If you could find something that hasn't caught up to current comps yet, maybe someone's still priced at the old price. I doubt I will be able to find that. I noticed today, walking around the Canton show, like one guy had an Elly Auto base Chrome, and I asked him what his price was on it, and he was high. At least I thought he was high, even based off of kind of what he's been doing. So most people that probably have his stuff knows that he's on absolute fire. So I probably won't be able to sneak in anything, but it is on my radar walking around the ship show Saturday morning. I don't know when he's projected to get called up, but dude is absolutely raking. Speaking of first Bowmans, I just kind of wanted to do a little bit of a check-in here. I ran this back to March 1st. So assuming you kind of bought before the season started, before spring training, that kind of lead up pump period, and then the season starts, and what do we always talk about? Expectations typically don't meet reality, and most of these guys come down. Lo and behold, these are all first Bowman, all base Chrome Prospect Autos, all PSA 10s. First up, J-Rod. Obviously, struggled the early part of the season. I have noticed, and I haven't looked at the numbers this close, but I have him on my NFBC team, and it does seem like he's hitting a little bit better the last week or two. His prices are down 50%. His PSA 10 first prospect auto was 2.63K back in March. It is now down to 1.2, a 54% drop. Wander Franco, 1.7 down to 1.2, same price as J-Rod now, a 30% drop. And Wander is actually having a pretty good season, or at least he was to start. Once again, I haven't checked his numbers recently, but he had a pretty decent start to the season coming out of the gates. Juan Soto, another one, started slow to the season. He did get a little hot about a week or so ago. I haven't looked once again in the last week to see how his numbers are, but he was definitely hitting a little bit better recently than he was in April. His first Bowman PSA 10 is down 35%. The one guy going up on this list, Acuna, having a hell of a season, probably the front runner for MVP in the NL. His first Bowman was 1.8K before the season started, coming off kind of a mediocre season, but wasn't surprising given he was a year removed from ACL surgery. He seems fully back, up to 2.5K. So he is one that has outperformed the expectations on him, as he's basically looking like back to where he was pre-ACL injury, absolutely crushing the baseball. And then Fernando Tatis, obviously kind of a wild ride with him, was suspended the first part of the season, is finally back, but has been kind of quiet, down 23% to 1.9K. Just kind of interesting looking at the rankings on those. Acuna, clear number 1. Then you have Soto coming in at 2. Fernando Tatis, for all the baggage with him, coming in at number 3. And then Wander and J-Rod basically tied with each other. This, if you believe in these guys, and really you could substitute any player in here that you wanted, I always feel like this middle part of the MLB season, there could be some interesting buying opportunities as these guys struggle in the colder months of the season and then potentially get hot and heat up. I always feel like there's in-season opportunities with baseball because it's such a long season and kind of the ebbs and flows of these guys. So if you were looking to get into anybody, whether it's people on this list or not, might not be a bad idea. If it's anyone that kind of started slow, do some digging around. Maybe there might be some buying opportunities there. Curious, of this list, obviously Acuna's up, so let's remove him from the list. But of the other 4, J-Rod, Franco, Soto, and Tatis Jr., which one of the 4 are you like, that's actually come down to a decent amount. Maybe I do want to dabble in that. Curious for your thoughts on that one. Go ahead and fire one of the 4 names in the comments down below. Next up, NBA. And then we'll wrap this thing up. No football talk today. I glanced at football. There's honestly, once again, kind of not a lot going on with football. I know it's been in demand at shows and stuff, people looking for it, but prices aren't really going anywhere crazy. I think one of the bigger movers of the week was Sam Darnold, of all people, on the rumors that he may start the season for the 49ers over Trey Lance. So he got a little bit of a bump up in prices, but generally speaking, football is just kind of in a weird place right now because of the time of year that it is. Basketball. NBA Finals implications. Obviously, Denver is locked in. Miami, you sweating a little bit, Heat fans? The Celtics look really good the last 2 games. We'll see what happens tonight in the next game on that. Or is that Saturday? Yeah, tonight is in Saturday night. So you already know what happens. You were way ahead of me on that one. But Denver stuff, way up. Joker Silver up 35%. And I should note, this is going back the last 2 weeks. His base Prism up 55%. Justifiably so. Once again, 2-time MVP. Probably about to win an NBA title. I would favor them over anyone that comes out of the East, especially the Heat. Jimmy Butler getting a little bit of love. His base Prism is up 45% over the last 2 weeks. The biggest winner by far, Jamal Murray. And his base Prism, surprisingly enough, also the biggest winner. So as much as people hate on base, especially this older stuff, still a play. His PSA 10 base of his Prism 2016 is only 844. About the same as Jimmy Butler's. His base Prism 2 weeks ago was going for $50. Today, $160. Not bad. 3 extra money in 2 weeks on Jamal Murray. His silver Prism has stayed flat over that time. Little surprising on that one. $450 to $468. I should note on that one has not sold in the last 6 days. So that could be playing into that a little bit. The other interesting one, and I think people always sleep on these because they're not in current production of Prism. I think the last year that they did them was 2016, actually. That's the Starburst. This is a PSA 10. The pop on this is only 58. That is 120 lower, 150 lower than the Silver Prism, and it sells for half as much. And once again, I think it's just because people don't realize the card. You're chasing this older stuff. Starburst isn't a bad one to look at. That is also up 40%, only $230 though. This is essentially a Prism X-Fractor. If you haven't ever seen one of these before, it's basically an X-Fractor design from Topps. They just call it the Starburst, but it looks like an X-Fractor. Cool design, very low print run on these, and you could get them for significantly cheaper than the silvers. I mean, this always goes back to people who are like, well, this card's more rare. How come it doesn't sell for more? there are two sides, the supply and demand. The supply side is only one of them. You have to have the demand side as well, and there is more demand for the silver. Like I said, I think a lot of that is because people just kind of forget that the Starburst exists because they are not in current day Prism. Next up on the old basketball side of things, Jayson Tatum, I put him on his own little page. He has been an absolute roller coaster, but generally speaking, his Optic Hollow has gotten really hammered lately. This is also going back, I went 30 days on this one. Optic Hollow over the last 30 days is down 50%. Whew. His silver is showing up here slightly, but that was all on one particular sale. The one before that was $840, and then on the 24th, it went up to 1.08, so just over 1K. So about a $200 bump up in price there. I'll be curious to see what the next one goes for. Otherwise, this would be in the red as well. Wouldn't be down nowhere near as much as this. And then I just tacked the green on here. One is not sold for a hot minute, and only two have sold, and they were pretty close together. The green has stayed relatively stable. Tatum, we'll see what happens. Everyone loves him. Everyone crowns him as one of the futures of the NBA. We'll see what happens. I still like the guy. I still believe I'm not moving my green anytime soon, or at least planning on it. But that team is just... I'm glad I'm not a Celtics fan. They are a roller coaster of emotions watching them play basketball. And then finishing up, just wanted to check in on Ja really quickly as his stuff continues to pull back, though it does look like it may have temporarily hit the floor for the time being. His silver prism sitting at $425. His prism base is down to $65. Over the last 30 days, you're looking at a 35% decrease and a 10% decrease. If we shorten this up a little bit, over the last 14 days, it's down 15% and 6%. And then over the last 7 days, his silver is actually up slightly and the base is flat. So I don't think this thing gets below 400, at least in the time being. Maybe it does. I feel like, and this is what we typically happens. We've talked about this a lot in the past. When one of these significant negative events happens, a big injury, ACL tear, see Acuna, an off the field incident or off the court incident, this Ja gun thing, everyone that wants to dump dumps immediately. It all floods the market. A bunch of supply hits the market, and everyone wants to buy at a discount, and then there may or may not be enough buyers. It drags the price down very quickly. After that, you kind of work through that flush out period for whatever it is, a week, 2 weeks, sometimes just a couple days, depends on the player. Then everyone that wanted to dump dumped. Everyone else, it's just, hey, I'm going to ride this out. So all of a sudden, that supply on the open market at current market prices suddenly dries up. There's nothing listed anymore for $425. It's all stuff at old comps. You know, you search eBay and you're like, why the hell's that guy at $700 on that card that sells for $400? Screw them. That stuff will always be there. But there's this gap all of a sudden of kind of current market prices and what everyone's super high prices are. So that supply dries up, and then all of a sudden it's just everyone kind of waiting out auctions, as everyone that has their stuff listed at bin would have dumped already. So now you're just sitting there waiting for auctions to come to market, or someone desperate throws one up at current market prices. And then you start to see that either slowly start to tick up, or that's where you'll see things flatten out. Because things aren't coming to auction as often. People aren't looking to dump unless they absolutely have to sell for some reason. And then it comes to market. And then, like I said, sometimes you'll see little creep ups in prices like this, or they'll just remain flat. Now, maybe this is just temporary. We're waiting to get word on what a league suspension is going to look like. That could throw it through the $400 floor. But I wouldn't be surprised if silver, anyway, sits at around 400. And I wouldn't be surprised if at least, I'll call mid to low end Ja may be heading towards the settle point. I'm sure high end's probably still going to be a little bit of a rocky road, but that sub $500 stuff might be starting to settle down just a little bit. So that is all I have for you, boys and girls. I have to get this edited, uploaded, and out the door to the ship show. Hope to see you, or hope I saw you at trade night last night. This is always weird when I record early. And hope to see you at the show floor today. If not, we will catch you boys and girls on the next one. Everyone have a great holiday weekend. Enjoy your time off. Stay safe. Peace.